the concept I'm going to talk about in this episode, I perceive to be the biggest blind spot on the entire planet. Something that is so simple and so widely unseen, and it's just like the most wild thing in the planet. And when I remind you, you're going to be like, how could I forget this? If you've been like, if it's a remembering for you, if it's an introduction to the concepts that I'm going to share today, then, you know, for me at least, it's blown my mind. And the concepts that I'm going to share today, I was introduced to 6.5 years ago. And between that point and today, I've gone between remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting. When I forget, I find myself in this automated feeling of suffering. When I remember, I find myself so deeply connected that I have this enriching, beautiful relationship to life. And then I forget again, and I just come back to awareness and think, how could I ever have forgotten this? How could I ever have forgotten something that is so real and true and meaningful and important? And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, a real opportunity to remember. So just to start sharing and teaching some pieces. Firstly, I'm going to pre-frame, and you may have heard me talk about this before. It really is the foundation behind the wisdom that I share at this point in my life. It's the idea that as a human being, we have two aspects to our consciousness. So you have the aspect of your consciousness, a lens through which you view life, that I call the head. You can be in your head. And the other side is you can be in your heart, and you can view life through that aspect of your consciousness. This is how I kind of summarize and consolidate the whole personal and spiritual development lens. It's how I integrate lots of different wisdom from different thought leaders. Instead of feeling like I'm learning something new, I can kind of see how all the different thought leaders refer to this in different labels, but essentially they're pointing to the same things. So the head is the aspect of our consciousness that its primary motive is survival. And so this aspect of our consciousness is motivated by fear, and it's essentially attempting to keep us alive. It really is what Joe Dispenza call the animal in us. And the part of our brain, the amygdala, which is the fear center of our brain, it's like the oldest aspect of our brain that has we've evolved and developed other layers of our brain over a long, many generations, thousands, tens of thousands of years. But this primitive aspect of our brain, the amygdala, really drives us in life to be motivated by survival. Okay. And so there's lots of different ways that people refer to this. It's also known as like the ego. It's also known as living below the line by Carl Jung. And I'm not going to mention too many of these things, but it's essentially living in fear. We have the other aspect of our consciousness though, which is our heart. I call it the heart. Some people call it their higher self. Some people call it totality. Some people call it living above the line. Some people call it God consciousness, awareness. It's got lots of different titles. But essentially, this aspect of our consciousness has a very different motivation to the head. The heart's main goal is for us to grow or expand, and for us to experience life. This is why I feel like we come to this human experience: to grow, change, to evolve, and also just to have a really unique experience. Okay, we're all different people. We look different. We have hugely different life experiences. And I feel like if we are all infinite, unmanifest potential, and we all come from source consciousness, what's the point of being oneness by itself? We expand out from nothingness into something. We come into this manifest form because God wants to experience itself in all these different ways. Okay. I'm aware that I'm dropping some, talking in spiritual language, and I'm sharing slightly more advanced concepts. You very well could know exactly what I'm talking about, but you may not. Either way, I'm going to continue to deepen on this concept. So one of my amazing mentors, that a man that taught me to become a meditation teacher, who is Johnny Pollard, also the founder of One Giant Mind, which is a meditation app that's had millions of users and downloads. And he also teaches people to be meditation teachers. And he's also an author of a really brilliant book called The Golden Sequence. So Johnny Pollard has this interesting perspective, fits directly into what I'm saying, where he says the most powerful force on the entire planet is ignorance. You know, if someone said that to me before he said this, what's the most powerful force in the universe? I would say maybe love or truth or authenticity or imagination. But I wouldn't think ignorance.